So, hello. Hogwarts Legacy is out. It's been out for what, like a week? Well, actually, no, probably about close to a month, maybe? I have no idea, to be honest. It's been out for a little while, and it's fantastic. I'm absolutely loving it. I haven't put it down since I first got it. So this, in my opinion, is the comprehensive review and my thoughts of Hogwarts Legacy. I'm delving deep into every kind of topic and aspect of the game to give my full opinion and thoughts. So this will be both positive and negative. I've divided this up into some different segments. I've got it all on my phone. So we've got gameplay, world and environment, story and quests, characters, collectibles, skills, gear and customization. There's like nitty gritty bits and the kind of aspects of the game that you couldn't really fit into one section. And then finally just my overall enjoyment and thoughts on the game. So combat. I didn't expect the combat in this game to be so fun and addictive. I mean, with a lot of things, I didn't expect it to be this good. So I was really pleasantly surprised. The vast amount of spells mean you can have like multiple play styles, kind of. For example, if you wanted to go down like the transfiguration and those kind of spells, you could use those to eliminate your enemies without having to use the, I don't know what they call them, the red attacks, basically. You could use the vast amount of spells mean you can basically set up your own classes, and that's part of the game. Is you have 4 different loadouts for your spells, which you can change mid-fight, you know, to have some amazing combos. So yeah, it is awesome. So there is a lot of different play styles, and obviously taking into account the plants and the potions, which I'll get into in a little bit. So, you know, you can go out for an all-out attack, you can be strategic, or you can go full dark arts and use your Avada Kedavras, for example, which obviously is really cool.
You can't be serious. This is awful. I don't know what to do now.
So with the combat system, obviously, like I said, you have your 4 different loadouts, which means you have to be strategic in what spells you choose. You can't just slap them all on at once and just use them all in one go. It's not like a Mortal Kombat game where you can do every move possible with the right combination of button presses. You know, you have to think about your loadouts and what spells will go in each. So yeah, you have to be strategic, and I like that. I like that I don't have to just mash the buttons. I have to think about what attacks I'm using. Loads of different cool things you can do with the spells, which makes every single combat encounter completely different, and obviously depending on which enemy, each enemy has a weakness as well. The actual combos are actually pretty easy to pull off as well. So the thing with like a Mortal Kombat game is you have to be able to do all these moves, and some of them are quite complex, and that always put me off because I'm not that clever. I'm not clever enough to be able to do those. So the fact that the combos are actually pretty straightforward to pull off, I just have to think about what spells I'm using when, means that I personally can enjoy it. You know, every battle seems familiar, yet just as fun and as rewarding. So, you know, enemy types are, in my opinion, a little bit bland. I think that, you know, you have your goblins, your wizards, or your creatures, and that's kind of it. There's no, I mean, obviously, and then you have your more boss enemies, which is kind of the typical game experience. I think maybe mixing it up. However, you know, when you go into your enemy wizard camp, there are some of more like the brute characters, which are slightly more difficult to take down. Each dark wizard you fight isn't just the same dark wizard. Some of them are more difficult to fight than others, which I guess is pretty cool. But kind of once you fought the wizards, then you fought the wizards, if that makes sense. And also talking about spells as well, I like that you have essential spells like Alohomora, Petrificus Totalis. I like that those are always in your player's arsenal. You don't have to set them, because, I mean, Petrificus Totalis actually, I think, should have been one of the combat spells that you can attach to a different loadout, because the enemies use it against you. So I wish that was the one I could use all the time, but having that as a move I can use anytime, I don't have to put it onto a loadout. It means I don't have to think about it, and I think that's a cool thing. Obviously, wizards can't just use a certain amount of spells at a time. They can use any spell they want at any time. So having those essential spells and also having the loadout system means I do feel like that. I feel like I've got a vast knowledge of all these different spells. I did my first playthrough on normal, and every fight isn't just a straightforward, you know, hit them with a few spells and they die. You know, every fight, you do have to be tactical, you do have to think about it, and I do like that. There's been thought put into the combat scenarios, which means that me as the player, I have to put thought into the combat scenarios. Something I also like is that the enemy intelligence, they are clever, they have their own kind of thought process. You know, they block quite efficiently, they move around the map, or they move around the area that you're fighting in, which means, like I say, they feel realistic, it feels like a normal, actual combat scenario that you know, if you're in the wizarding world, you would actually come across, which I think is awesome, and I really like that. And it makes each battle feel immersive, and it feels fresh. You know, yeah, enemy types, in my opinion, might be slightly bland, but it means that every combat scenario themselves is always engaging. And like I said, with the potions and the plants, you know, you can incorporate those into your playstyles as well. Like, you've got even more to your advantage. It's not just a case of what spells you can use, it goes deeper than that. The potion system is very basic. You know, it's not like Skyrim where you have to learn how to create these potions and you learn how to craft these potions. You basically just get them, you buy the recipe and the set there, and there's only like 5 or 6, I think, that are just kind of your buffs. So the potions in the game work well, but I think the potion system is very basic and is very bare bones, and it's something that I was expecting to be. I mean, you take a potions class where you make potions. I was expecting to be able to brew things that are a lot more complex. So I don't mind it. I don't think it's a terrible thing, but I definitely think it could have been a bit, like I say, a bit more complex. However, the plant system I think is great as it is. I love that. I think the different plants you get in the game all work well. So combat, the positives is it's fluid, it's immersive, the enemies are difficult and enjoyable to beat. The spells in the game are awesome, and I love the loadouts, and every battle may seem a little familiar, but is always as engaging, and it's always just as badass to fight every enemy. I mean, some of the finishes you do are awesome. And the negatives, I do wish there was more spells. There are some missing spells in the game that we may talk about a little bit later on when we come to DLC. However, I don't think that's a major issue. Potions, I think, isn't a huge issue, but is something that I definitely think could have been improved. I think the potion system is very, very, very basic. And I think that it would have been nice to get some different types of enemies in the game. So that was combat within the gameplay tab. We're still talking gameplay. This may be a long video. We're still talking gameplay, but that was combat. Now we're going to talk about puzzles, because puzzles is also a huge part of the game. So there's plenty of puzzles laid around the game world, especially within the Hogwarts castle. They're pretty fun for the most part. You know, they make you use your brain to figure most of them out, which, I mean, I know that all puzzles should do, but some of them I just didn't understand first time through, especially the like maths doors. I just didn't get them at all until, I will admit, I Googled it. But, you know, puzzles like the keys are cool. Like I say, they make you think, but they don't make you rack your brains. You know, they can be a bit frustrating when you can't find the place, but they're a nice little puzzle that they throw in, and I think they're nice and easy. There's not much to them. Nothing seems majorly repetitive with the puzzles. I think there's a good variety of them, and it doesn't become a puzzle game, which I like. You know, if you think, I'm going to compare it to Skyrim a lot because that's my favourite RPG of all time, and them both being fantasy games. I'd like to compare them. But in Skyrim, you just basically have those pillars that you match, and then you pull a lever or the claws, and that's basically it. So I like that they went a little bit deeper and they thought of different little bits and bobs. And a lot of the mission, like dungeons you come across, they also have puzzles. Technically, I would maybe count them as puzzles, stuff like the skeleton ramps. Maybe you wouldn't class that as a puzzle, but it makes you think, and I like those little aspects that are just littered in throughout the world. Yeah, that's puzzles. I think the puzzles, positives and negatives, there's plenty of them that are great. They aren't too difficult. They're nice. They're not easy, but they're nice, and they're enjoyable to complete. They make you think, they make you work. And to be honest, with negatives, couldn't really think of any. I think maybe with Hogwarts, it would be nice to get some unique puzzles maybe, but you do get a lot of secret rooms, got a lot of places to explore, which means that I think having unique puzzles, it might be in a bit of a waste of time on the devs' part. So I wouldn't really say there's any negatives on the puzzle side. And then moving on, we got like a subcategory of minigames. There's not a massive amount of minigames, which is why I'm not going to talk about it for a lot, but you kind of get stuff like the broomstick time trials, which were amazing, and I love them, and I can't remember what it is for the life of me. Summoner's Court, that's it, I think. Yeah, I didn't think that was very enjoyable, but it wasn't bad, just wasn't fun either. I would have liked a lot more minigames. Wizard's chess is obviously a huge part in the first movie and the first book, but that's not seen anywhere. I mean, I would have liked to sit down and play Wizard's chess with another student. Don't get why that's not in the game. I think that was a huge missed opportunity. Positives, the broomstick minigames are awesome and I love them. The negatives, there was not enough minigames, especially for this world. There was a lot more they could have done here, and I really wish they did. So we're still on gameplay. Now I'm going to talk about exploration. is obviously a huge part of the game. But the fans were very skeptical before the game came out from footage and gameplay that it just looked flat. Not literally, but just empty. There's nothing there other than Hogwarts. And it did look like that from the trailers, but I think safe to say that's not the case. We'll talk about the world and its environment in a little bit, but the actual exploration mechanics of the game I think are amazing. You obviously have the Flu network, which is the fast travel system in the game, which I think is pants.
Off on another adventure, are we?
Shut up! Shut up!
No, it's not pants. It's okay. The actual system and the mechanic of it is fine, but the amount of the Flu stations in the world, especially in Hogwarts, is just insane and it's completely unnecessary. Considering the character can apparate, I don't get why that wasn't also a fast travel system. Or at least like a power in the game. You know, imagine if part of the spells was you could essentially apparate and you teleport. So the Flu network I didn't mind, but obviously in the films you never see these little Flu stations. It's always in like fireplaces and things. I think if you'd had like 3 or 4, maybe 5 fireplaces around Hogwarts that you could have used Flu powder to get around, that would have been cool. Yeah, I think the Flu system mechanic itself was fine, but there was too much of it, so it got boring. But the broomstick exploration, oh my god, it's just amazing. It's so good. It's so fun. Like, not many games do I manually travel everywhere. I mean, I know I'm not running around, but most games you use the fast travel mechanic, but not this game. The broomstick flight is just awesome. It's magical. Yeah, it's just great. I absolutely love it. You know, the speeds you go, and obviously you can upgrade the broom, which makes it even better and even faster. Swerving in and out the trees. I think the way they did it, where you kind of skid when you move, I thought that was perfect. So broomstick travel is awesome, and then obviously you get your time trials, which make it even more fun. There's more purpose for the broomstick mechanic. So obviously you have other mounts like the thestrals or the hippogriffs. I never really used them as much as I did broomstick because I didn't think they were as easy to control, but they were just a nice thing in the game. It was something that I think if they didn't put in, everybody would be asking them to put in. So it's nice that it was there on launch. It seems like something that they would have added in DLC. But to have it there on launch was just lovely. It was a great mechanic, and I thought it was really well done. Obviously, you get the grab horn, which you get like towards the end of the game, which also is the mechanics on how you use it is not very good. I think they're a bit clunky, but it's still pretty cool. You know, it's the only ground mount you get in the game. There's not much use for it other than the mission you get it in. I don't really see much use for it. But broomstick travel is amazing. Exploring on foot is also pretty cool. Getting to run around the castle. Again, we'll talk about the actual environment a bit later, but getting to run around the castle is nice. The running animations are fine. I'm looking at you, Jedi Survivor, with your terrible running animations.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man.
The running animations in this game are really nice, which they should be. I shouldn't even be talking about the running animations. But exploration is a big thumbs up from me. The positives, broom and all the mount travel is just perfectly done. It's phenomenal, other than the grab horn, which is a little bit clunky. Flu network is flawed, I think, and not in the actual mechanics, but in the way that there's way too much of it, which makes it really oversaturated. And especially when the world is so beautiful, nobody's using it. So I think that could have been revised to be a little bit more unique and a little bit like you had to think about how you were using it, if that makes sense. But that's exploration, and we'll have a quick look at the other mechanics before we move on to our next actual subject. So I think the just kind of talking about other mechanics, I think the devs used the world and its lore perfectly. For example, the Room of Requirement, that's a great player house and something I never would have thought to use, you know, if I was a dev. So I think that's awesome, the way you can fully customize it and you get the different vivariums. Is also brilliant. You know, you get to tame, I'm not going to say kidnap, but you get to tame and take some of the beasts. So those mechanics are just awesome. They're really nice. They add to the world as well. It's stuff like that, which again seems like other devs would have added it as DLC, but the fact that it's there on the base game is just perfect. I don't really know what else you could have added there, but I think maybe just some other bits and bobs to do, like a bed to sleep in. That would have been nice. There was some missed opportunities in terms of the beasts. I think that they could have been used in combat. If you look at Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, he uses, I don't know what it's called, but he uses that flying thing in the first film as like as a weapon at times. So I think that might have been pretty cool to use. Maybe a bit inhumane, I guess. So I think the beasts could have been utilized in combat in a way, and also it would have been nice to have a pet. I mean, you do have your own owl, but it would have been nice to actually have them have a purpose. You know, being able to buy your own pet, like a cat or a rat or a frog. It would have been nice to be able to. Obviously, that's a huge part of the series, the books and the films, so it would have been nice to actually have that bit more integrated, kind of your dogs and cats expansion like The Sims. Yeah, I think that was a little bit of a missed opportunity. So those are just some of the other little mechanics in the gameplay aspect, which I think definitely should have been incorporated, and obviously some of them were really well done. So that's gameplay, that's the first tab done, and now we will move on to the story, which is cool. So, the story. So I'm not going to give too much away in terms of spoilers, and if I do, I will warn you. But the story, it starts off a bit slow and a bit meh, but that isn't to say it doesn't get good, because by the end of the game, it is fantastic. The ending of this game is amazing, and there's certain missions sprinkled throughout. I would say from about the middle onwards is when it gets really, really, really good. You'll have seen some of the videos on my, well, actually, a lot of the videos on my channel, either that I have posted or are coming, gameplay-wise, feature the best moments within the story, so watch those if you want to get a bit of context to what I'm talking about. I love the ancient magic kind of plot line. I thought that was quite fresh and it was quite unique. I was expecting another Chosen One type story, and I'm really happy that they didn't go for that. So I was pleasantly surprised with the story. I never think it was bad. I think it was just a little bit slow at the start, which I think is fair to say, but it definitely picks up. But no spoilers for the ending. You gotta go play it yourself. In terms of mission design, I think it's great. I was expecting a lot of Skyrim-esque, go to this place, kill these people, collect this item, bring it back to me. I was expecting a lot of missions to be like that, which there is. Obviously there is going to be those types of missions, but the ones that are like that, kind of disguised, I guess. They don't seem like that. But yeah, I thought the mission design was really well done. It seemed very fresh. I just wish there was a lot more side quests. I think there is quite a few side quests, but I wish there was more that were worth doing. A lot of the side quests you just get gear or coins for, which to me is boring. The gear obviously we'll talk about later, but the gear in this game isn't really worth completing the missions for, I don't think. So I mean I don't really know what they could have done to change that, to improve that, other than having maybe some more unique gear. But yeah, I think the mission design itself was good, but the rewards were a bit rubbish. I'm not gonna lie, I think they were a bit rubbish. However, talking in side quests, although I don't think there was enough of them, I think there definitely should have been more. The ones that we did have, some of them were phenomenal, especially the Sebastian storyline. To be honest with you, I would have said that was better than the main storyline. I thought that was an amazing plot. I thought it was brilliant. It was a little bit predictable. Well, yeah, I thought it was a little bit predictable, but it was brilliant. I thought it was perfect. I really, really enjoyed it. And the ending of it is heartbreaking. I don't know why I'm laughing. It is heartbreaking. And I think stealth quests, I think they were okay, but there wasn't enough of them. Having an array of missions set around the castle that involved stealth, like, you know, you've got Gareth, who seems not like a prankster, but obviously the Weasleys have a history of pranking in their future by the time this game's set, so I think maybe some of those would have been pretty cool. You know, imagine a mission where you sneak into a different common room and lay kind of different prank gags around, and maybe something like that, or sneaking into offices, like little theft missions, I guess. So I think stealth was actually pretty well done. I was quite happy with the stealth mechanic. But I think it could have been utilised a lot more, especially with being a kid at a school. I think there was some cool stuff you could have done there. And also in terms of kind of story, the house system made no difference to the game whatsoever, other than it was just your own personal preference. If you've watched the films and read the books, there's rivalries between, you know, Gryffindor and Slytherin, which is actually a huge part of the school's kind of DNA and the way the school operates. You know, obviously you get your house points and things. But the closest thing we get to that in the game is just a teacher saying points to Gryffindor. So I think that could have been a major side quest to begin with. You know, having for example, if you're like a Hufflepuff, you're beefing with the Ravenclaws, or the Gryffindors beefing with the Slytherins. I think without Quidditch, obviously if there was Quidditch in the game, I definitely think that would have been a plotline. I'm almost certain of it. But obviously without Quidditch, then maybe this wouldn't have had so much use. So maybe if we get a Quidditch DLC, we'll get to see something along those lines. So side quests, not enough of them, but the major side quests that we got were really good, and I really enjoyed them. And spoilers, we can't not talk about the story and not talk about the Deathly Hallows mission, which, oh my god, that is fantastic, and I loved that mission. That was brilliant. I thought I was going to get to keep one of them, or I was going to get to use them again. But yeah, if you want to watch that mission, be sure to go onto my channel and check it out. By the time this video's up, it should have been uploaded. Fantastic mission, and if you've not played it for yourself, then what are you waiting for? Go play it. So, world and environment, this is the one that I've been alluding to loads. So the world and environment, other than maybe combat, is probably, in my opinion, just the best part of this game by far. Fantastic, it's magical, it's amazing, it's really well done. Just exploring Hogwarts is so enjoyable. I never ever thought I'd be making a video talking about how much I loved running around a school, but obviously this isn't just a school. Every 5 seconds you find a new stuff. So I've completed the game as a Gryffindor, and the only other common room I've stumbled across is the Hufflepuff entrance, obviously, which shoots the vinegar at you. That's pretty good, I think, actually. You know, obviously if I was going to the school, they wouldn't want me to stumble upon them. But the school itself was just perfectly crafted. You know, the way that it takes the places from the books and the films, kind of the way that the world is crafted is a mix of both. On TikTok, I'll put a link to this person in the description, but there's somebody on TikTok who's they are walking through the world of Hogwarts Legacy with the narration of one of the books over the top, and oh my god, it is a one-to-one recreation of the way it's described in the books. It's actually pretty scary how perfectly crafted it is. And obviously with all the flack this game was getting before it released, I am so surprised at how good and how much attention to detail they put in this. It's just so immersive. I love walking around the castle and you see people practicing spells, or you know, you see I remember once a guy walking up a wall. I don't even know what triggered it, but I was walking around at night and the headmaster walked by me and caught some students kind of bullying this other kid. Just those little like random events in the game world, it's just perfect. It's so cool and exactly what I wanted from this game. I wanted that. I was at school. I wanted those little bits and bobs just to stumble across. Obviously, moving paintings are perfectly done. They're exactly how they should have been. The moving stairs they're done as good as they could be in a game. They don't move like they do in the first couple of films or in the books for that matter. But I think they're good enough. They're not really moving, they just disappear in stairs, but they're fine, they're all right. But a negative, I just wish that the students seemed more like real people. Obviously you have these random events which make the school feel more immersive, but like, you know, you explore the castle at night, there's nobody around, which is fine, but there's nobody in the common rooms either, and the teachers are still in their classrooms. It's just a bit weird. I think having maybe the teachers walking around, you know, they could have their torch out, you know, with Lumos, they're just monitoring the halls. That would have been a nice little detail, which they could have easily done. Students actually in their beds, asleep, which I don't get why they didn't do that. It's actually kind of creepy when you walk around and you just can't find anyone, but the characters that you have a quest for will still be in their place. Like I don't know what he's called, but the nerdy Hufflepuff dude, you know, it's midnight, it's past midnight, and this guy's still just stood in the same place looking at a painting. It's just weird. You know, you have to wait for certain characters, you know, so for example, if you go to see Professor Fig and he's not in his office, you have to wait for him to start the quest when he appears. So the fact that that is in the game, but other characters stay in their places all the time, it's just a bit of a weird thing. Obviously they've done it for some, so why didn't they do it for all? But I wish that was something I would have loved. They would have added to that immersion. And also like the students attending the classes as well. You see students in a class, but you never see the classes actually happening when you're not there. The only classes you see are the ones that you're in. So that would have also been a little detail. But they're not game breaking or anything. They're just obviously talking about the world and the environment. That's what I expected to see, and I didn't see them. The outside world is really well done as well. It's so interesting. It's so full. Like I said, there's a lot of people who were skeptical about this game, that it was going to be really flat and boring. That's not the case. It's beautiful. It's amazing. There's so much to do. There's ruins. There's camps. There's goblin camps. There's hamlets with little towns. There's dungeons. There's forests. There is loads to do, and the map is pretty big actually. It doesn't seem that big, but it is pretty big, and there's a lot to do. To be honest, that's what I'm most happy about, is that there's stuff to look at, there's stuff to go and explore, and enemies to come across just in the wild. So yeah, I was really happy with that aspect. Although the world is really full and there is a lot to do, once you've explored everywhere, there's nowhere else really to go other than Hogwarts and Hogsmeade, which kind of is a little bit disappointing. I wish that other places maybe had a bit more of a purpose to revisit, like little towns and stuff, for example. It would have been nice if there was some plot lines involving the towns, you know, maybe like miniature little Civil War, not full Civil War, but like, you know, squabbles between towns and stuff. That would have been a nice little quest. That would make the world a little bit more interesting. But yeah, I think the world is absolutely fine. I think it's brilliant. I think it is full. There's loads to explore. Maybe it would have been nice to have a little bit more reason to explore it other than just chests and defeating enemies. So that's the world and environment. I think it was amazing. I think it's really full. They did a really good job crafting it, but I just wish that there was more reason to go out and explore other than quests. or chests, for example, you know, other than having to explore them for a completion. But other than that, you know, the one-to-one recreation from the films and stuff, it's just perfect. It's really, really well done. They put a lot of time and effort into this game, which I'm so glad for, because, you know, not just me, but a lot of people were skeptical that they weren't going to put the time in. So the characters in this game are really good. They're brilliant, they're really well written actually, and they're really well developed. They do really fit into the world. Also, sorry if I keep looking away, I'm checking my notes when I can't remember this off the top of my head. You know, characters like Ominous and Sebastian are really well written characters and are actually really endearing and are already some of my favourite characters in the franchise. Ominous especially, he seems such a nice guy and he's such a tragic character. So yeah, they're really well written and they're really likeable and also dislikable, you know, if they need to be dislikable. Solomon, for example, really dislikable character at the start, but you feel so sorry for him towards the end. So yeah, some of the professors are really interesting. I think Professor Weasley's really good. Another mention is Madame Kakawa. She's a really nice, really interesting character, and there's some story there when you talk to her. And I actually think, you know, the headmaster, Professor Black, is also a really interesting character. They could have easily just gone for a Dumbledore clone, but they didn't. They did something quite interesting with the fact that a lot of people don't like him. And I thought, obviously, that's part of the lore already, but, you know, I really liked that. I thought that was cool, and it was nice and fresh. Also, some of the characters are pretty dislikable. Professor Fig, for example, was just very 2D. Didn't really have much conflict in him. He was just very much, oh, my wife's died, let's finish the mission. That was kind of it. He wasn't a bad character at all, but he wasn't very interesting either. And obviously a character has to be interesting. But I think that's to be expected. In a game this big, with this many characters, you know, it's definitely going to happen. There's going to be some uninteresting characters. In terms of, you know, quest characters, it's a bit hit and miss. Characters like Ranrock, I don't think he was a particularly good villain. I thought he was alright. He kind of just had a very generic purpose. He wasn't bad though. And Rookwood, I thought actually was a very good character. I did enjoy Rookwood, and he was quite menacing. So yeah, I think the characters overall were really good. They were really hit and miss. Some were really brilliantly written. Some were a bit poor. Some were a bit 2D. Some characters could have had a little bit more to them. Collectables. So collectables are thankfully not as much of a pain in the neck as I was expecting them to be. I was expecting to have to collect beans the entire game or something, but that wasn't the case. Speaking of beans, it would have been pretty cool to collect wizard cards from Chocolate Frogs. You didn't get that. That would have been pretty sweet. I wish we could collect them because they would have been pretty cool. Just not beans. Yeah, the collectibles were cool. I really love the field guide pages. I thought they were brilliant. You know, you had to try and find them. You didn't just pick them up. A lot of them give you facts. You know, obviously the Chamber of Secrets one, it said it had the little snake engraved into the tap. That was brilliant. And obviously you can't see that in the game, but that page told you that. So the pages were brilliant, and I really, really enjoyed collecting those. I thought the demi-guises, they were pretty cool, and they were interesting. They weren't just pick up this token. You had to obviously wait until night to collect them. Thought that was a really cool, and obviously they tied into a quest that give you a spell reward. So that's in my opinion is perfect collectible coding, whatever. They really nailed the collectibles in this game. I don't really have any drawbacks on the collectibles. I think they were really, really well done. I think they, to be honest with you, I think they were done perfectly. And I'm not going to throw that word around a lot in this video, but I thought collectibles were perfect. Skills. So the skill system in this talent points in the game. I think I like the skill system. I thought it was pretty basic. I think, you know, you get a talent point per level, and you can apply it to a different item in the technical, you know, the skill trees, I guess. I just wish the skills were maybe a little bit more interesting. I used all my skill points on the core and the spells before anything else. I maxed those out because they were the ones to me that were the most worthwhile. I played through it. I wasn't trying to be a dark artsy guy, so I didn't really use many of them. I didn't really use stealth that much. I didn't really use them, and I didn't really use potions. Maybe that's just me really not playing the game properly, but to me they just didn't seem worth it. I got by the stealth sections in the game perfectly fine without any of those skills. The potions were perfectly effective without any of those skills. But nevertheless, I didn't really think about it when I was playing it. I never really thought, oh god, I wish there was more skills. However, a game I think did skills perfectly was Jedi Fallen Order. You know, the fact that you unlocked abilities with skills, I thought that was quite a neat way of doing it. So I do wish maybe they took a page out of that. But again, I didn't really think about it. I thought skills were good. Maybe just a bit of wider variety. And something that it's tough because obviously as you leveled up, your character gets buffed and does more damage because obviously you can defeat the higher level enemies. but it didn't really seem like that. It just more seemed like it was like a psychological thing that you knew you're high level, you could beat them now. So I don't know. I think it would have been, for example, the spoilers, the Deathly Hallows mission when you use the Elder Wand. That wand feels so powerful. I wish I could have used my skills to buff my wand, to not necessarily double that, 'cause it's never gonna, obviously in the lore it will never be that strong, but to get kind of close to that maybe. I think that would have been cool. There was some great skills in there which really enhanced the gameplay, but I think there just should have been more. It should have been a little bit more interesting, a little bit more, you know, dive deep into the skill system, but just a little nitty gritty point. So we're getting to the end, and I want to talk about gear and customization. Now, I'm a sucker for customization in games. Anything I can create myself, I will jump on that. I absolutely love it. So when I, first started playing this game and I realized how that worked, I was actually, I was buzzing. For the first half of the game, I absolutely loved the customization aspect. But take note of how I said for the first half of the game. The second half, I found a style and I stuck with it. In terms of like the schoolwear, you get so many different options of different shirts and tie combinations that are unbuttoned or buttoned, or with a jacket or not, or with the goofy high socks, which is just awful. So in terms of that side of it, I thought it was really, really cool. If this was like a Hogwarts school simulator, I would have been buzzing about that. But as an RPG, I wish that there was more, and I just wish that the stuff you could get was just cooler. Well, there was armor plating, but none of it looked that cool. It looked okay, but it didn't look that cool. Should have been more unique gear, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I think being able to upgrade gear more than just putting traits onto it, that should definitely have been in there. There should have been blacksmiths in the game that you could do that too. Or crafting gear, creating gear. Obviously, it's possible to collect items in the game, so I wish I could have done that. Or buffing my wand with things that aren't skills by upgrading it with different materials. Those elements of customization, I just think this game could have done with, and I don't think that they'll add them in DLC. Stuff like that, which would change the fabric of the game and how the game is played, won't get added in DLC. So if we get a sequel, then I think that's something that they really need to think about adding. And, as much as I love changing the way things looked, I just wanted a reason to do it a little bit more, or I wanted there to be a little bit more stakes to the gear system than just like, oh, this gear is more powerful, I'll put this on, but make it look like my old piece of gear. It defeats the object really of upgrading gear. You might as well just buff your character more. I did like that there was so much gear and options and customization options to choose from. I love that. I absolutely love that, and I'll always love that. I just wish there was more. I just wish there was more reason to change my gear, other than just to sell my old stuff, which is what I found. Basically, the only reason I kept gear was just to sell it to make money. In terms of customization, broomsticks, I love that. I love being able to change the look of my broomstick. I love being able to buff my broomstick just a little bit. But again, there was nowhere near enough customization on that side. They put so many resources into the player customization that they forgot about the brooms, I think. There is definitely some unique brooms you can get out there. I was expecting more. I was expecting to be able to complete a mission and get like some really unique looking broomstick, which looked cool, but you didn't really. So in terms of the entire customization in the game, I think something it desperately missed was exotics. I think when we defeat a giant boss, or we defeat a boss enemy, just in general, we should get like a unique piece of equipment or armor. And that was a bit of a missed opportunity, which they could add into the game, but I don't think they really will, because that would also change the way the game is played a little bit. The room of requirement, I have to talk about that when I'm talking about customization. That was just perfect. There's not really anything to say there, other than maybe it would have been cool to have like beds to be able to fully customize it, but what's the point in being able to put a bed down if I can't sleep in it? So that's a gameplay drawback as well. But that's gear and customization. It was good, but it could have been better. The Pedro Pascal meme. So that is the main portion of this review done. We have two little segments to go. We've got to talk about the nitty gritty elements, which won't take too long, and then just my overall thoughts on the game. We'll talk value for money. So I spent 60 quid on this game, and then another 17 on the Dark Arts pack. I think the value for the base game is definitely justified. I think this is definitely a 60 quid game. Something I have to say is that this game was polished on launch. There was no game-breaking bugs on launch, and you don't hear of that nowadays. You don't. Most games will have terrible bugs. Bethesda games. There was a couple of times where, for example, in the PlayStation exclusive quest, you have to defeat the poltergeist guy, and there's a room where you have to defeat the mannequins. On my first time playing that, the last mannequin was invincible, and I'm not sure how I did that. I think it's because I crucioed it. I think it's crucio, or whatever the spell is to make it fight for you. I think I did that, and for some reason it just won't let me kill it. I reloaded the save, killed them all, and it was fine. So it didn't break the game at all. It was an annoying little bug, but yeah, for value for money, 60 quid for this game is a bargain, to be honest with you. However, the extra 17, if you didn't get the special edition, which I should have just done, the 17 quid for the Dark Arts bundle is not justified. Thestrals are amazing, and the Dark Arts Arena is awesome, but it's not worth 17 quid. It's a tenner at best. So, I mean, that's £7. Maybe I'm being a bit of a cheapskate. I've been playing on PS5, and I think the game runs fantastic. Like I say, there's no major bugs. There's a little bit of lag every now and again when I'm playing on because I'm playing on the best fidelity with ray tracing. I've had a little bit of lag in terms of when I'm in a big room or something, but other than that, I've not had many lag. No heavy load times. How mental is this? Imagine if you told me like 5 years ago you could go from the outside world into Hogwarts seamlessly with maybe like a couple of second little loading icon while the game has been played. You know, it doesn't go to a loading screen. I wouldn't have believed you. You know, in Skyrim you need a load screen to go into a little house, let alone an entire castle. So that was just fantastic. You do get little load screens every now and again when you go into certain different rooms, but yeah, I thought that was just perfect. And obviously there's no loading screens when you go into like a vivarium, which is awesome. That's just so cool. I love that. It's amazing. Nitty Gritty, a bit of the game over. It's very well done, and the devs have done an amazing job on it. So, the overall verdict. Let's be real, this game's amazing. As a Harry Potter fan, I could not have been happier. It's the perfect game. If you look at the rest of the Harry Potter games that I've ever released, this game is like a completely different universe to those. It's fantastic. It doesn't get better than this game. Everything about it's just phenomenal. There's, like I said, I've mentioned in this video, there is a lot of drawbacks. You know, there's a lot. Obviously, with any game, you're going to get nitty gritty points that I wish they'd improved. But really, overall, I would say this is a solid game with the only little drawbacks being minor little discrepancies, which probably the average fan doesn't even think about. The open world is full and fun. It's so great to explore. The Hogwarts castle is just perfect, and it's exactly what I wanted it to be. You know, gives you that childlike wonder when you're walking around. It's just magical again. Story's pretty good. I think like I said, it's slow, but it's good. It's not a bad story. There's worse stories out there, and it's got a phenomenal ending. To do, lots of places to go. I think, you know, there was like some bits and bobs which would benefit the game, but I think that's fair to say. In terms of DLC, I think DLC will keep this game alive. I think it's one of those games that when you finish it, and that's it. You're not going to go back and play it unless you do different playthroughs in different houses, of course. But houses, like I've said, don't really affect the story in any way. So there's not much in terms of replay value. So I think this game needs DLC. I think it needs some kind of online system, whether it's like online leaderboards or whether it's full-on online. I don't think full-on online will ever come, but I think some kind of way to compete with friends will keep this game alive, even if it's a PvP arena. And I'm not expecting an online free roam, but even if it's like online PvP where you could duel your friends and stuff, I think that will keep this game alive. And in terms of DLC, Quidditch, we need the Quidditch aspect in the game, and I'm sure I read something that said it was being developed but they couldn't figure it out, so they scrapped it. So if it was being developed, there's potential. So I think that desperately needs to go into the game. And I think maybe a Patronus charm related story. Obviously, if you play it as a Hufflepuff, you go to Azkaban and you see the professor use the Patronus, but I think but you can't use it in the game. So I think maybe some DLC quests involved in that will be great, and is what the fans are asking for. But I think for the time being, this game is perfect. It's everything I could have asked for. I'm so happy with it. Not many games just completely encapsulate me. The last game that encapsulated me like this was Skyrim, where I just couldn't put it down. And I think this game is on that level. I think obviously Skyrim is like absorbs you for months, and this game is again, it's once you play it, you've played it. I think just the only things I wish it had was just more quests, you know, that would keep me going and keep me wanting to search for more, and just maybe just some little aspects, little kind of updates to mini games, for example. those are the things that I think this will keep this game alive. I don't want to sound like a picky guy. I'm not too fussy when it comes to games. Obviously, this is a review. I'm going to tell you my thoughts. So overall, my score would be an 8 out of 10 for Hogwarts Legacy. It's brilliant. In my opinion, no game is ever a 10 out of 10. Maybe Skyrim. This game is fantastic. It just needed a little bit more. There was just little bits and bobs I think would have improved it. It's a fantastic game, and you should definitely go and play it. If you've not played it already, go and play it. So it's fantastic. So yeah, I've been Josh, and I've been talking about Hogwarts Legacy, and that was my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Put it in the comments below. Make sure you do all the YouTube-y, algorithmy stuff. Subscribe for more. I've got some more videos in the pipeline where I'm actually going to be talking. I'm not just gameplay clips. So watch out for those. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. See you later.